Everything about enjoying the great outdoors these days is getting freaking expensive. And it doesn't matter if you're into hunting or trail hiking, camping, or like me, fishing, everything just costs so much money. One of the main reasons that I never go on overnight fishing trips because the cost of hotels and condos and Airbnbs has just gotten outrageous. So in this video, I'm gonna be going over the bare essentials, the minimum stuff that you need to start truck camping. Not only is this going to be minimalistic, we're also gonna do this on a budget. Aside from your bedding and whatever you're gonna sleep on, this is it right here. It's all that you need. So let's jump right into it. Literally. Let's start with the bed of the truck or SUV if you're gonna use that. Now, if you're young and full of energy and you still got good knees, jumping in and out of the back of a truck or SUV is not gonna be a big deal for you. I haven't been able to use the word young in many, many moons, so jumping in and out of the bed of a truck ain't happening. So essential gear item for me, number one, it's gonna be some type of step stool. When you're out here truck camping, you're gonna be getting in and out of the bed of the truck multiple times. Now youngins, listen here, I'm gonna give you some advice that no one ever gave me. Just because you can jump in and out of the bed of a truck or an SUV 400 times in a day, doesn't mean that you should. Because later on in life, every morning when you get up and you try to stretch, it'll sound like somebody is popping an entire packet of glow sticks all at once. There's plenty of other ways to abuse your body. Getting in and out of the truck bed does not need to be one of them. So get you a step stool. Now they sell dirt cheap ones at Harbor Freight and Amazon, Walmart. It doesn't have to be anything fancy like this two-step stool that I've got. The only reason I'm using this is because I already owned it. I've had this one for years. It stays in my garage so that I can get to stuff on the top shelf. It doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be fancy. It just needs to assist you in getting in and out of the truck bed, which is what we're going to talk about next. Bedding. Typically, pickup trucks have some type of ribbed flooring. SUVs are usually not too bad, but they're not always flat. Now, there's a bunch of different ways that you can go about flattening out the floor in the bed of your truck or in your SUV. Some people like to put down some plywood. If you want to do that, it's perfectly fine. Just wouldn't go crazy and spend a whole lot of money on it. What I decided to do was use a cheap Harbor Freight flooring. They call them anti-fatigue foam mats. They're really made for putting on like hard floors, concrete, and stuff like that, so when you stand on them for long periods of time, your feet don't hurt. But in my case, I use them to line the inside of my truck bed. And you don't have to get the Harbor Freight version. They sell these at Walmart, Amazon. There's a bunch of places that sell them, and they're all about the same price. And I didn't get super technical or fancy with this. I just laid them out in the bed of my truck and cut them to fit with a really sharp razor blade. I ended up buying 4 packs of these. I think they were about $12 a piece. So for less than 50 bucks, I was able to put an entire layer in the bed of my truck, and I was able to take some of the extra pieces that I had, like the edge pieces, where they fit together like a puzzle, and use those as spacers underneath where those ribs are. And then when you lay that flooring over the top of it and you sit on it, or in my case, crawl around on it, the floor feels a lot more level and you don't feel those ribs on your knees and on your back. And I just have this stuff sitting in there. It's not glued. We're not taping it down. We're not using double-sided sticky Gorilla tape or nothing like that. Cutting it out real quick with a razor blade and just making it all fit. But 4 packs was enough for me to put an entire layer down on the floor, plus have enough strips to fill in those gaps where those ridges are at. And I had enough to do a second layer right down the center of the truck bed in between the wheel wells. And it gave me about a total of 1 inch of foam where I'm gonna be sleeping at, plus leveled out the floor. And it worked out perfectly. The foam is not so squishy that I feel like I'm gonna tear it up with my shoes when I'm walking on it. And it provides some insulation from the metal bed, because you definitely don't wanna be laying on a cold metal bed when you go to sleep at night. But for me, the best part is I'm gonna be able to take this floor in and out whenever I want. I can clean it. And when we do future upgrades, which will be coming on this channel soon, the foam was really easy to cut and it makes a great template. So if I decide to do a permanent wood floor later on down the road, I've already got a template for it. If you like free stuff, make sure you are tuned into the channel. We have a build competition going on between me and Mike. After we get done pimping out these 2 Sea Eagle Fish Gift 16s, we're going to be giving one of them away. Make sure you're subscribed or check out our website, tbnation.net, and we'll have a video coming up next week all about the giveaway. Now, for you little young whippersnappers, bedding's not going to be as big of a deal for you as it is for somebody like me who's a little bit older. I do require somewhat of a good night's sleep in order to function the next day. If you're young, probably save your money and find some used bubble wrap and sleep on that, and you'll be just fine. But for the rest of us, we are going to need something nice to sleep on. And this is probably where you're going to spend the most of your budget. I'm a little bit lucky. I've got multiple sleeping bags and sleeping pads that I've been using most of my life from camping over the years. And as popular of a hobby as camping is, I'm pretty sure that if you don't own one of these camping pads and a sleeping bag already, you probably know somebody who will let you borrow one. So it essentially could cost you $0. But camping mattresses, camping pads, and even inflatable mattresses have come a long way over the years, and there are some cheap budget options that will definitely give you a good night's sleep. This is probably the most subjective topic of this entire video. So this is going to depend on your sleeping needs. I prefer to sleep on very firm mattresses. I like lots of support, so I can comfortably sleep on 2 of these self-inflating mattress pads that I used for backpack camping. The foam mats that we installed in the bed of the truck are not only supportive, but they give it a good base for these pads to sit on, and it's a lot more comfortable than sleeping on the hard ground like I have in the past. And then depending on your temperature range, you have a sleeping bag. Like I'm down here in Pensacola, Florida today, and it was in the 60s last night. So I actually laid my sleeping bag down and put a sheet over the top of it just to give it that plush feel, but I didn't really need anything heavy to cover up with because it wasn't really cold. If you're going to be going cold places, you're probably going to need to look into a mummy style sleeping bag that's rated for whatever temperatures you are going to be in, unless you are planning on going into your wallet and pulling out some of that budget money for heating and cooling, which we'll talk about in just a minute. As far as pillows go, I brought the one that I use from home. It just makes me sleep better, but they do make dedicated camping pillows that are either down and stuffed into a really small sack, or they make ones that are inflatable that you can blow some air into and use that as a pillow. The good thing about truck camping is you're not extremely limited on space, so bringing a pillow from home is really not that big of a deal for me, and it doesn't cost anything. I already have it, and I already had this sheet, and I already had this sleeping bag, and I already had these sleeping pads. So really the only expense that I had for setting up my bedding back here was the foam floor. 4 packs of that was less than $50, and that's pretty cool. Speaking of cool, let's talk about air conditioning. Now, air conditioning is really going to depend on where it is that you are camping and what season it is. If you're in a very cold climate, or if you're somewhere where it's halfway decent during the day, but the nighttime temperatures fall really low, you may be able to get away with just wearing some really good clothes like thermals, having a decent like 0-degree mummy bag that you can really wrap up in and stay warm. There's a lot of options that don't really cost a whole lot of money or any money if you already have clothing and a sleeping bag. Now you get into really cold temperatures, or you're just somebody who has to be comfortable like me. If I was out here in the wintertime, I would have my little Mr. Buddy heater, and I would be running it in the back of the truck at night while I'm sleeping because I do not like to be cold. And if I didn't already own a Mr. Buddy heater, the way that I would keep myself warm is a full set of thermals, or long johns as I call them, and then I would have a 0-degree mummy sleeping bag and probably a blanket or 2 just in case I needed it. If you're going to be camping in environments that are more warm, or I would say above 50, 60 degrees, then you got 2 different roads you can go down. One is going to be actual air conditioning, which can be as simple as making a false tailgate out of wood for your truck and installing a cheap like $100 window unit from Walmart. But then you also need power at your campsite, which not all campsites have, require you to have a generator, which that's more toys and more expense, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you got the budget for it, go for it. For me, I just bring a thin, cool sheet from the house. I sleep in my underbreeches, no other clothing, and I have a battery-powered fan. Battery-powered fans are getting super popular. You can buy them at Amazon, Walmart, Harbor Freight. Now, if you're a person that already owns tools like a DeWalt, Milwaukee, Bauer, any of those tool brands that are 18 or 20 volt, most of them have a fan tool, just a tool only that's a fan that you can buy and use your existing tool batteries to power that fan. And a lot of times that is the cheapest option because you already own the battery, which is usually the most expensive part. For me, I have a lot of the 20 volt Bauer tools from Harbor Freight, and I already have a ton of the Bauer batteries. The Bauer fan that goes with those batteries is relatively cheap. The only reason that I have this dedicated battery powered fan is because I actually have 2 of these that I use in the back of my boat during my nighttime fishing trips in the summer. Where I live in Georgia, it gets pretty hot and humid during the summertime, and I like to have 2 of these blowing on me at night when I'm catfishing. Just makes it a lot more comfortable. Opening up the windows on the truck camper, as long as it's not raining, allows some fresh air in at night. What I did is place the fan over here in the corner, and I tilted it to where it was pointing up towards the ceiling. That way it bounced the air back down towards my face while I was sleeping. That indirect airflow was a lot better than just pointing the fan at my face and having it blowing on me while I'm sleeping, which I don't particularly like. Again, this is all going to be personal preference and something you're going to have to experiment with. But a battery-powered fan has not only been great for camping, I've found a lot of other uses for it. So I consider this a creature comfort that is absolutely worth the expense. I use it when I'm working on my car and it's hot outside. I can lay this on the ground and have air blowing over me while I'm changing the oil in my truck. In the wintertime, I have put this in my office at work to help blow some of the heat around since our heating system's not that great. And you don't have to go crazy and spend a lot of money on these. Amazon has them for really cheap, and I see them at places like Walmart, your value stores. There's a lot of options here. Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like camping's not fun, because it is, but the really fun part is all the toys. So let's go bring out my camping toy box and we'll talk about the stuff that you're actually going to need and some stuff that's just fun to have. So here is the camping toy box. It's just a cheap Rubbermaid tote, and I've got a lot of toys in it. Let's cover all the cooking toys first. I am a coffee drinker, and by that I mean you are not getting me out of bed unless there is coffee available. Now, I have two different ways of making coffee. I have a percolator. This is just a cheap one. I want to say I bought this at like Walmart or Cabela's or something years ago. Usually this is a one-time purchase. You buy these, if you halfway take care of and clean them out, they'll last you for the rest of your life. Now, when I was a young warthog, I used to backpack camp a lot, and I bought this French press coffee maker from REI. This is the GSI outdoor brand, and this has had a lot of use on it over the years, and it works good. Super lightweight, but this is kind of expensive, more geared towards backpack camping. But if it's just me, I really don't need to percolate an entire pot of coffee. If I just want 1 or 2 cups, this works out great. If I want a whole pot of coffee, or I got multiple people that want coffee, I will use the percolator. Aside from that, you'll also need coffee. There is only one brand on the entire planet. It's called Community. If you have to drink anything other than Community, I'm sorry about your taste buds. That must suck. Coffee filter is really not needed for a percolator. I just like to use it because it makes cleanup a lot easier. So I keep a pack of coffee filters in here. And in order to heat my coffee, I need some type of stove. Now, you can go crazy and get one of those Coleman stoves if you like. I used to backpack camp a lot, so I have one of these MSR Pocket Rocket stove kits. And it runs on these gas canisters that you can buy. They're made specifically for a rocket stove or a pocket rocket. There's a bunch of different brands, and you can spend some crazy money on camping stoves and camping equipment. I like to keep it simple. I use a small piezo igniter. This one is an MSR brand. I bought it when I got all my pocket rocket stuff. And I probably had this for 10 years or more. Lasted me for a long time. It was a good investment for me. The next bare essential you are going to need is some type of cup and some way to boil water. You do not have to get fancy like I have. I have this nesting backpacking set from GSI, super lightweight, but it'll boil about 4 or 5 cups of water, enough for me to cook up some ramen noodles or make coffee from a French press, whatever it is that I need to do. And my stove and all of its accessories fit down inside of it, close up into a nice small package. Now, if you don't want to spend any money, I'm sure you probably have a pot or a pan or something that you can use at home. Just bring it with you when you go camping, and you don't really have to spend any money at all. My other option for cooking is going to be charcoal. It is super easy to dig a hole, throw in a bag of charcoal, and have something to cook for dinner. And you don't have to go crazy. You can do something simple like hot dogs, bratwurst, hamburgers, whatever you want. I keep a bag of charcoal. I got the instant light kind, and I just put it inside of this dry bag, and it stays in there all the time. That way, no matter what, my charcoal will never be wet, and it will always light. They're not really necessary at all, but I will show you this because I have it. You can find little small charcoal grills like this all over the place. You don't even really need an entire charcoal cooking thing like this. If you want to buy a small grill, you can, but really all you need is just this. You can dig a hole, put your charcoal down in there, and then rest this on top of the hole and cook right on top of that. Now, if you want to stay super simple, you can stick with hot dogs and bratwurst and things like that. Put them on the end of a stick and roast them over a fire that you're probably going to make anyways, because everybody makes fire when they go camping. Another option that's not super necessary, but if you want to keep things lightweight and you don't want to do a whole lot of cooking, as long as you have a way to boil water, you can do any of these kind of options for freeze-dried food. We got mac and cheese, biscuits and gravy, mocha mousse pie. There's a gajillion options out there for these meals ready to eat. All you got to do is just add water. I could do an entire video on MREs and freeze-dried food prep. I will leave that up to you to do your own research, but this is also another easy and cheap lightweight option that will fit into your truck and have multiple meals if you need them. The next thing you're gonna need is a way to eat. You can get one of these nice forks, or if you go to like a military surplus store, you can get one of these. This has a fork on one side, a spoon on the other side. It's got a knife if you need it, corkscrew. There's all kinds of accessories. This is basically like a culinary version of a Swiss Army knife. If you're really on a budget and you don't want to spend any money, just next time you're at Taco Bell, grab 4 or 5 of these, and you know you're going to be at Taco Bell getting a Mexican pizza and a Baja Blast anyways, so might as well grab a couple of forks. And you're gonna need water. I buy jugs of water at wherever grocery store I happen to be at before I go on my camping trip. I just happen to grab these at Walmart. These are distilled water, and I typically use 2 gallons per day minimum. That gives me enough to cook with, clean up after I get done cooking, make coffee. 2 gallons is plenty enough for me. You may need more, and the more people you have, the more water you're gonna need. I don't really find it necessary to go spend extra money on big water carrying containers. I know they're cool and they're nice to have, and if you got a lot of people, you're gonna be gone for a long period of time, probably not a bad investment. But for my short fishing trips, 2 or 3 days, I just go grab 3, 4, 5, 6 of these little gallon jugs of water. They're usually 99 cents and they work just fine for me. And after you're all fat and happy and you've had yourself a good meal, you're going to want to get cleaned up at some point. This is going to be a personal preference thing, but I do not like toting around a camp shower. It's extra expense. You got to have propane or electricity, a way to heat up the water. Plus you got to carry a ton of water and some type of bathhouse. One of those pop-up ones, they can get expensive. And it's just a lot more extra stuff to carry in a truck. If you are a person that cannot live without a shower, it may be a necessity. You may have to spend the money on that. For me, I can make it 1 day without a shower as long as I have a way to clean myself up really well. And for that, I use the Dude wipes. These are relatively cheap and they're just about everywhere nowadays. They sell big camp towel versions of them that are a little bit more money, and you can definitely get yourself at least feeling clean after a long day of fishing, hunting, camping, whatever it is that you've been doing. And you know, if you get the small ones like this, you're probably going to go through about 5 or 6 of them just to wash your entire body off. I would rather spend $4 or $5 on a pack of Dude wipes than have to carry around all the stuff that I need for a shower. And just for everyday hand cleaning after you get done cooking and going to the bathroom, stuff like that, just wet ones, big wipes seem to work great for me. There's a bunch of different brands. You can use a Lysol if you want, but definitely an essential item is a way to clean yourself. Even if I had a camp shower, I would still carry these in my truck with me, or at least keep them in my camping kit so that I can clean my hands, clean my arms, or if I get sweaty, I can kind of wipe my face and neck off and just feel a little bit better. After that, it's just your basic camping essentials. A way to start a fire. I like little fire start cubes. If you want to make your own, you can do it with cotton balls and Vaseline. You don't have to get into the ancient art of bushcraft and become a master bushcrafter backpack camper in order to camp in the back of your truck. You just need the essential stuff and a few emergency things just in case. Bug spray, sunscreen, all good stuff to have. Don't leave home without your duct tape. And inside of all my duct tape rolls, I like to keep a couple of like Kroger bags or Walmart bags or whatever kind of grocery bags I have so I can use them for trash. Here's one that I had from earlier, and I've been putting all my trash in it as I'm camping. Not a bad idea to keep a thing of rope. I have a Ziploc bag with all of my toiletry essentials. I've got some dental floss in there, toothbrush, toothpaste, some deodorant, some soap, toilet paper, pretty much anything I would need. This is basically just a camping version of an overnight bag. I bought all this stuff years ago and it just stays in my camping kit. Next up is going to be lighting. You're definitely going to need a way to see at night. You don't have to go out and do all this crazy stuff. Your cell phone has a flashlight on it. Most people just use that, but you do need one extra form of backup lighting just in case. If you're a headlamp user, you know, buy a headlamp. I got these years ago to keep in the back of my truck, just a little flip on, flip off light switch. I think it takes AAA batteries and lasts for a long time. If you want to get extra fancy, you can go to Harbor Freight and get you one of these rechargeable fancy flashlights like this that folds up. This one is the one that normally stays in the door of my truck, and it's got a magnetic base so it sticks to pretty much everything on the truck. It makes it easy for me to get in and out of the truck at night. Everything else I have in the toy box is all backups. Redundancy is a huge thing when you are truck camping. The more remote that you decide to camp, the more important the redundancy becomes. You need a backup of everything. For instance, my primary sleeping system is the bed of my truck. Well, say something happened, a tree fell on my truck and I wasn't able to use my camper anymore. I need another way to sleep. These two bags contain my hammock system. I have my hammock straps in this bag, and I have the hammock and a rain fly in this bag. And I got all my stakes that I need for the rain fly in here. I've got backup sunscreen, backup bug spray. I've got a small pillow as a backup pillow in case I forget my pillow at home, or my truck camper leaks and then my pillow gets wet. I've got another one right here. I got backup fuel for my stove. And most importantly, I have a backup water source. I'm not going to get into particular brands or anything, but like a Life Straw or this Sawyer one that I have, where you can fill this bag up full of water, attach this to it, and use this as drinking water so that you could get water out of a creek, is 100% absolute necessity. You never know when something is going to happen. You definitely need a way to get clean water, at least for drinking and maybe small cooking. All of the other backup stuff that I need is already in my boat or my truck. I have a first aid kit in my truck. I have another first aid kit in my boat. They just stay there all the time. I have rope in my camping kit. I have rope in my boat, and I also keep a thing of rope in my truck. Same thing with flashlights. I have flashlights in my boat. I have a small rechargeable lantern in my boat. I have flashlights in my truck, and I have flashlights in my camping kit. This is actually my backup overnight bag with all my toiletry items. I actually brought my real overnight bag that I use for traveling. It's in my truck right now. This is just the backup, and it stays in my camping kit. Fire starting is something else that I always keep in my truck and in my boat. Redundancy is just the big key, because you never know when you're going to forget something, or something's going to go bad, or something's going to happen. It just seems like every time I go on a camping trip, I either forget something or something breaks or something happens. And it makes it nice when it all fits into one convenient little container like this. Because not only is this easy for me to store in my shed at the house or at the shop, when I want to take off and go camping, I don't have to grab as much stuff. Just grab this big tote, grab the stuff that I need to sleep in at night, change of clothes, make sure I grab some food and some water, fill the cooler up full of ice. I'm ready to rock and roll. It's gonna be this right here, something for rain protection. Now you don't have to have a canopy. I like the 10 by 10 pop-up canopies. They're easy, they're cheap, you can find them everywhere. And if you're really on a budget, I'm sure that you know someone in your neighborhood or in your friend group or somebody that you know probably has one that they would let you borrow for the weekend so that you don't have to go spend the money on one if you don't already own one. The reason that I'm including this in the bare essentials, like the minimum stuff that you need, is because of weather. You just never know what the weather is going to do. And say you planned a perfect weekend getaway fishing trip, you get down there and it decides it's going to rain the entire first morning that you're supposed to be fishing. And I can tell you from personal experience, sitting in the bed of that truck for 5, 6, 7 hours when you're wide awake and ready to go fishing, it sucks. For a while you can get away with, kind of laying on your side, sitting up a little bit, sitting Indian style, but eventually it's going to get uncomfortable unless you just fall asleep. At some point you're more than likely going to want to get up and walk around a little bit, stretch your legs, get some fresh air, which you really can't do when it's raining in the back of a truck because you open up the windows, you're going to get rain inside. With one of these canopies, you can set it up over the back of the truck and that will give you some area to get some fresh air into the back of the truck, but also give you a dry area out here to stand up, walk around, cook, do all the things that you need to do to help feel more comfortable. An umbrella. Yeah, put that in your kit because you might need it, especially on a morning like this when you wake up and it's tropical force 500 category 7 winds in Florida while you're camping. And you remember that part where I said you should put your canopy up if you think there's going to be rain? Well, guess what I did not do last night because I didn't think it was going to rain this morning, and now here I am with an umbrella. I think my toes are wet. And the last part of the budget that you have to consider is where you're going to stay. Now, if you want to be ultra cheap, you can find U.S. Forestry Service places, national forest, state wildlife management areas. There's tons of places that you can stay for free. If you want to get into stealth camping, you can do the Walmart parking lot, the Home Depot. There's a bunch of places and there's a lot of videos on YouTube about stealth camping. Not really my style, but it's out there if you want to research it. One alternative I have found and what I am using now is a app called HipCamp. It's also a website that you can go to and it's basically like Airbnb for camping. I recently discovered it and I found that it's really awesome because you got people that have big pieces of property like we're at today that will allow you to camp on their property for usually relatively cheap. Today I'm on a property in Pensacola, Florida, and they only charge $10 a night. So for the 2-night weekend that I'm going to be staying, it cost me a grand total of $20 to stay here. It's pretty private. There's only one campsite, which my buddy Carl is at right now, and the guy's house is right over there. They haven't bothered us, haven't messed with us. Within 20 or 30 minutes of most of the boat ramps around here that I want to fish at. So it's a really convenient and cheap option that doesn't break the bank. I did some looking around before I came down here. The cheapest Airbnb that I could find was around $130 a night, and it was 45 minutes from the closest boat ramp that I wanted to fish at. I'll take a $20 camping stay for the weekend over $130, $140 a night Airbnb any day. If you're one of our regular subscribers, this is not the last time you're going to see me doing a fishing trip camping video. This is going to be a new series that we're starting here on the channel, and this is just the introduction. We're going to be doing more and more of these. We're going to do mods to the truck. I'm going to be taking out some inflatables and not bringing an actual full-size John boat like I'm doing today. There's just a lot of opportunities for us to go on fishing trips and do mods and things like that to make camping more comfortable. If you're not subscribed to the channel, what in the world are you waiting on? Hit that subscribe button right now, because not only do we do really cool camping videos, we also do boat reviews, product launches. We have a full website with every fishing boating product you could ever imagine. And there's much more to come. And there's apparently much more mosquitoes to try to eat me alive. Where's that bug spray at?